goods. It lifts people out of extreme poverty, it champions the rights of women and girls, and it delivers humanitarian relief when disaster strikes. But support for the helping the poorest people on our planet is harmed, and DFID suffers reputational damage when behaviour that contravenes aid agreements is unchallenged and, despite being presented with the evidence, DFID takes no remedial action. There is no greater example of this behaviour than the support DFID provides to the Palestinian Authority. But I do not wish to dwell upon that aspect today, as my views on that subject are well known. Where I seek to take this debate is in how DFID spending can assist in a quest for a two-state solution, something that all of us believe in. Indeed.
I had the great pleasure last year of visiting Israel and Save a Child's Heart, which is a wonderful charity which has helped about 4,000 children, half of whom are from the West Bank and Gaza. Does he agree with me that it's that kind of coexistence project that DFID funding should be supporting?
I absolutely agree, and I've also had the pleasure of visiting that hospital myself. And I have to say I'm very proud of my colleague at the time, for Brigham Gould, who actually makes a monthly donation to the hospital out of his own pocket, which is something that he should be commended for. However, as I said, I do not wish to dwell on the aspect of the Palestinian Authority and where they spend money. There is a need for greater support for individual projects actively promoting peaceful coexistence in the region, as Save a Child's Heart is. This would support the government, the UK government's own stated goal of securing a lasting and peaceful two-state solution. Once again, something that all of us in this room want today. Yes, of course.
Just to understand the foundations from which my honourable friend wishes to build the coexistence which we all would like to see, may I ask him to confirm unequivocally that he endorses the policy of the government, which is that Israeli settlements on Palestinian land are wholly illegal?
Well, I can confirm by myself that indeed the Israeli Supreme Court says that as well. So there's no misunderstanding about that. However, to go back to my speech, in April of this year, the Minister announced that DFID is open to considering further support through the Conflict, Security and Stability Fund for strong coexistent projects that bring Israelis and Palestinians together. But
I'm very, very grateful for his forbearance again. I agree with him on the thrust of his remarks towards peaceful projects. Would he also not agree with me that this is an example of how we should be looking to move away from general budgetary support and to specific project support, which I believe also has already been done in other countries such as Rwanda and Malawi?
I can certainly agree with that sentiment, and the examples that I will have of the projects that I wish to raise are actually ones that are ongoing and don't actually achieve the aims that I believe the honourable member seeks to achieve. So less than 13% of DFID's £1.17 million of funding of Israeli and Palestinian NGOs goes towards projects which bring the two peoples together. This represents about 0.2% of the £72 million DFID spends in the Palestinian territories. A number of NGO projects currently sponsored by DFID in Israel and the Palestinian territories carry out laudable activities, yet have a questionable outlook endorsing violence. Some of these NGOs engage in activities that undermine peace efforts and increase tensions, and a number are heavily involved in lawfare and the so-called boycott, divestment and sanctions movement. UK-funded NGOs have their own NGO in itself through something called the NGO Watch. This actually looks at how some of the funding is spent through the Conflict, Stability and Security Fund. NGO Monitor seeks to hold the NGOs in Israel and the Palestinian territories to account. It regards UK funding to a number of the NGOs as, and I quote, a manipulation of the democratic process, an attempt to change Israeli civil and military judicial practice and decisions in government policy, and notes that some of these groups, these NGOs, are engaged in anti-Israel efforts. NGO Monitor has said that a significant proportion of the NGOs receiving British funds promote the Palestinian political narrative, focusing only on allegations of Israeli human rights violations. The UK government currently funds 10 NGO projects in Israel through the Conflict, Stability and Security Fund. The allocations are to the Perez Centre for Peace, Injaz, Kids Creating Peace, Yes Din, Gisha, Peace Now, Terrestrial Jerusalem, the International Peace and Cooperation Centre and Rabbis for Human Rights. Now, taking just one of these because of the limited amount of time, Yesh Din Yeshdin describes its mission as working to oppose the continuing violation of Palestinian human rights in the occupied Palestinian territories, documenting and disseminating accurate and up-to-date information about the systemic violation of human rights in the OPTs by raising public awareness. In October 2013, members of Yeshdin took part in an Arab celebration on the ruins of a Jewish community in Homesh, with attendees desecrating Jewish symbols and waving anti-Semitic posters, including one depicting a Jew with a spear through his head. This is where our money is going from, Mr. Wilson. I would like the Minister today to hear our concerns and to not continually view this problem through a prism of a conflict between the Israeli and Palestinians. Our money is going to some causes which he would be ashamed of, I'm sure. And I hope that we can take that message to the government today and make sure that we actually look at our spending.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. And can I, first of all,